Happy holidays. Today is Tuesday, December 7th, 2021, and we had an interview scheduled, but unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, it was canceled. So today, I just want to uh, just talk a moment about how we need to talk about maternal mortality preventions. This needs to be talked about, which is why I am creating a platform for PPCM survivors, which is peripartum cardiomyopathy, which is PPCM, and this needs to be talked about. Cardiologists are talking currently now at UCLA with gynecology. I was definitely a big part of the connection of what is happening with women today. There are preventions, which is why this needs to be talked about. People do not know in the medical community, as well as just everyday, walk of life, about this BNP blood test. It stands for a brain natriuretic peptide test, and it's not included in the panel or the standard blood panels. It's not mandatory. It's not standard. OBGYNs and birthing professionals don't really know to provide it, and most say women don't need it during pregnancy. Maternal mortality is a young, healthy woman disease. It's its own disease within itself. However, the diagnosis can also diagnose other symptoms that could lead to, other complication diseases. But the treatments are very similar with the awareness of early diagnosis. So when a young woman as early as 18 years old, healthy, or not, usually it should be done before she's pregnant, during pregnancy, and throughout her pregnancy. There should be regular standard, raising the standards for all pregnancies is needed, but there should be a routine through each trimester. Most important, and what should again be mandatory and standard, but it's not, is the NT-Pro BNP test, and there's also a BNP test. The NT-Pro BNP test is more of a full panel, and the numbers are between 300 and below. Even if you're like a -2, as long as you're below a 300. And for the brain natriuretic peptide, the BNP test, it's any number below 99. Cardiology is the doctor to provide this test, although young women never really think about mortality, let alone maternal mortality, especially when you are so healthy prior to pregnancy, which is why it's called pregnancy complications. Really, it's just the fluid in the blood, and it's creating more fluid that can either crush or weaken the heart, or enlarge the heart, or suffocate the heart, if left never diagnosed and never treated, which is more common than not. It's just rare for anybody to have this awareness. Most women, if they are treated and they are diagnosed as peripartum cardiomyopathy, PPCM, you can have a full recovery. If you are never treated and never knowing the awareness of your BNP test, that could lead to very suffering, very painful experience like I had as a healthy woman and a young girl my whole life. health has nothing to do with peripartum cardiomyopathy. It's a pregnancy induced. And so what happens to a woman's body and the symptoms is you can't lay back flat, you can't really walk up steps, you have a hard time breathing, you have a hard time with the fluid retention. And that's basically what it is. The fluid suffocates, and just like your car engine in your car, our hearts is our main engine. And if you flood your car in a big puddle, the engine dies. And that's the same thing with our hearts. Our hearts are drowning. And that's what young healthy women are experiencing when it's all preventable. So this is being talked about now in the medical community at UCLA. Dr. Carol Watson, she removed my defibrillator on Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2018. My experience happened in 2016, but there is always, post, and there's a lot of follow-ups and things that, happen when you survive cardiac death. And it's very traumatic. It's not joyful. And people don't really believe that it could ever happen to them. And that's where the glitch and the issue lies. And within the wheelhouse of women, that this has been happening since the beginning of time. Maternal mortality should be an ancient conversation, because it is medically proven that no woman should die from peripartum cardiomyopathy, and that you can fully recover. So if a woman is not diagnosed, there was a recent woman at Cedars-Sinai who just died. That's where I gave birth. I was not saved there. I was sent home. I actually, thank goodness for Thanksgiving, I ended up in Arizona, so at a small medical center, and they saved my life. They diagnosed me once I finally coded and had my cardiac arrest, which is unacceptable, because you can be diagnosed as early as 10 weeks pregnant. It's just a matter of having the awareness, which is what lacks in the United States of America. We are one of the wealthiest countries, and unfortunately our highest medical insurance is extremely high, but we also have one of the highest death rates globally from maternal mortality. And that's unacceptable. So there needs to be more conversations, need to have more discussions of bringing this to the forefront, of knowing that there is, 1 out of 4 women in the United States of America, suffer and possibly die. And the ones that we hear about are just the ones that we hear about, but we don't hear all of it. So I am creating this platform for everyone to actually know that this is real, that women as young as 18 years old are getting new hearts and suffering. And, insurance is a big issue, because if you live, most women, you need follow-up, especially if you have a new heart, and if you were preserved. Like, I was preserved in a hyperthermia coma. Some were preserved in, a water tank. So, and these are, women, young women too, that don't really have coping skills. And so this goes into mental health. This goes into postpartum depression on a whole other level, because you have experienced death or maternal mortality symptoms. And I think the scary thing for most of women that I have observed in the last 5 years is that the fear and the scare and the worry is just overwhelming for some of these women. And it's a real shame, because this could have been a very joyful experience if there was more peripartum cardiomyopathy, PPCM awareness, and the preventions of what you would need to do. And to learn more, you should go to my nonprofit website platform, which is ppcmfund.com, which is Paul Charlie Mary, PPCM, which stands for peripartum cardiomyopathy fund.com. So please look at the videos, tune into these women. They have a lot to say. They have experienced, most of them experienced death, and that's a whole other conversation of what we should talk about, because it can go real deep and spiritual. So I hope that you listen to these women as we continue to share their PPCM experience and the events that took place, because wounds have wisdom, and they all have experience on what is so common for so many. So I think that this is a really good way to make sure that this is talked about. The awareness is every day. PPCM Awareness Day is every day. And I want to promote pregnancy, health, and wellness. This is about awareness. This is a prevention. So this is about women rising above in a pregnancy movement where maternal mortality is preventable. So we should talk about this, and we will. Thank you for tuning in, giving your time. Your time is priceless. You can spend it any way, anywhere, and I appreciate you educating yourself and gaining the knowledge of this preventable woman disease that should have been corrected a long time ago. Thank you so much.